Fox 25 is proud once again to give candidates for office the forum to debate live on our newscast about everything. As you know, there's plenty of hot contests out there this year. This morning, the candidates in the race for the 4th Congressional District are joining us live in our Dedham studio. Joseph Kennedy III, the Democrat. Sean Bielat is the Republican. We appreciate both of you for joining us this morning. And gentlemen, this is an informal debate. I'm going to ask each of you questions. You both get a chance to offer a rebuttal after the initial question, and at the end, you each will have 30 seconds to speak directly to voters. So let's get started. Mr. Kennedy, the question to you is the first one. You're 32 years old, you've never held public office, and you are expected to win this race handily, endorsed today by the Boston Globe, by the way. Are you the favorite for any other reason than the fact that you are a Kennedy?
Gene, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Sean, it's great to see you again. Gene, you know, I've been working very, very hard since this race began to try to get out there across the district, introduce myself to as many voters as I can, give them a chance to meet me and understand what my values are and the type of vision that I have for this district, and if I'm lucky enough to serve down in Washington. And as I've talked to people, they're really concerned about jobs and the economy, but it's almost even bigger than that. It's this feeling that no matter if they work hard and try to make a better future for them and their families, that they're not going to be able to get ahead, that they're playing a bit against the stacked deck. And I've spent my entire life fighting for those issues as a member of the Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic, as a legal aid volunteer, and as a prosecutor here in the courts. And I've been proud of my record of public service, proud of the support that I've received across the course of this campaign, proud of the endorsements that I've received from the Massachusetts Coalition of Police and the State Police Association of Massachusetts and the Boston Globe today. So I've been going out there every day trying to earn people's respect and support, and hopefully their vote.
Fair to say, though, Mr. Kennedy, your name recognition is certainly an asset for you?
Certainly. I'm very proud of clearly what my family's done here in Massachusetts and to this country. And I think it's certainly been big support for me, Gene, but from day one, I've been very clear with everybody that it is my name on the ballot, and I've got to go out there and earn people's support and respect, and eventually, hopefully, their vote. And the only way to do that is by hard work and knocking on doors. So we've been doing it.
Mr. Bielat, you have an opportunity to respond to that if you'd like.
Well, first, I have to object to your characterization of his likelihood of winning handily. I don't see it that way at all, and nor do the voters I'm talking to. You know, it's interesting that Joe used the phrase, give everybody a level playing field, because certainly that's not what he's been trying to do in this race. He sat back, hidden behind his staff, hidden behind talking points, and raised a lot of money. And, you know, that's certainly a way to run a race. We're doing something very different. We are getting out, talking to voters, not just doing photo ops, but actually talking to voters, having an aggressive ground game, you know, getting out and making a case. Look, I've done dozens of TV and radio shows. He has turned down, at least that I know of, 19 different hosts have told me he's turned them down. We agreed to 16 debates. He's done a couple grudgingly, including this one. You know, I've held 15 town halls. He's had none. So I'm getting out. I'm giving voters a chance to ask me questions, to hear what I have to say on issues, to react, and to make a choice accordingly. He's hoping that his name's enough, that his money's enough, and that, you know, if he can stay quiet enough and not make any mistakes, that he'll get in. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think, you know, my experience as a Marine officer, 4 years active duty, 10 years in the reserve, most of the past decade in business gives me credentials that are necessary at a time when business and economic worries are the biggest concerns that we face as a country, and national security is increasingly important as well. So I think experience matters. I don't think Joe has it, and I think, yeah, he is absolutely running on his name.
So you would say then that experience that you just laid out in this race, I mean, you're 37, only 5 years older than Mr. Kennedy. Neither of you have held public office, but it's that experience you think in your life that makes your experience more valuable than Mr. Kennedy's, to the point where it should matter to voters?
Well, yeah, I do, because it's not just a matter of age. It's a matter of what we've done in our years. I've done more that's relevant to the office that I'm seeking than Joe has. You know, there's nothing wrong. Obviously, he's made some contributions. But what we have to look at is, what do voters need right now in Congress? When we have voters who know enough about both of us, I have a huge lead. Among voters who don't, you know, that's our challenge. We have to get out there and let them know what this campaign is about. But right now, the issues are jobs in the economy and increasingly national security. And in both of those, I have a substantial advantage based on experience.
Mr. Kennedy, your chance to respond?
Well, as you pointed out, Gene, Sean and I are both in our 30s, so the idea that he's somehow got this huge gulf of experience just isn't true. I think what you've also seen throughout the course of this campaign, this is our 5th joint appearance since the end of the primary. So in 8 weeks, we've done 5 joint appearances together. Sean did 4 joint appearances in an 8-month campaign with 2 Republican challengers. So somehow the idea that I've been running away from interviews or trying to get my message out there just is not true. Finally, Gene, when it comes to the major issues in this race, whether it's Medicare and Social Security and how to protect it, jobs in the economy and how to get it moving again, our debt and deficit, how to get it under control, education, health care, the Affordable Care Act, campaign finance reform. Every single major issue, Sean and I disagree. And every single major issue, he's on the wrong side of it. He wants to repeal Roe versus Wade. He's endorsed the framework of the Ryan budget. He's been endorsed by the Citizens United, has taken $10,000 from their PAC. In his campaign said he hopes someone spends $1 billion to beat me. So when it comes to the actual issues in this race, Sean's on the wrong side of them. And each time he brings it back to my family or my experience, I think it's really just another distraction that he's using to try to get away from the issues.
All right,
well, look, nobody's accusing me of running anything except on my merit and my arguments. You know, there just isn't any. I'm definitely not running on Bielat. So yes, the experience does matter, because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten to where I am right now. If we want to take campaign finance, though, as a topic, I think that it's a little bit ridiculous for Joe to try to take the high ground when he has raised $300,000 from PACs, well over $100,000 from registered lobbyists. He's taken all sorts of money from special interests. He's outraised almost anyone in the country, and he's trying to say that somehow the deck is stacked against him, or somehow I want to take money and keep interest in politics, when in fact we need to do the opposite. What we need are competitive elections based on merit. Not elections based on names, not elections based on money, but elections based on merit and ideas.
Sean,
and so far, we're not seeing that.
I didn't say that. You did. You said that your campaign said you were hoping somebody would spend $1 billion to beat me.
And if we did, your campaign would spend $2 billion. I mean, you're raising huge amounts of money,
I don't think we have that ability, Sean. I think, as you know, our campaign offered from the very beginning of this race to do a pact similar to Elizabeth Warren and Senator Brown to keep super PAC money out of this race.
And what super PAC money is in this race, Joe? Well, you've raised $4 million. Don't try and get sanctimonious about super PAC money.
No, Sean, it hasn't come in. But the fact is that we offered to try to keep it out, and your response from your campaign was that you hope someone would spend $1 billion to beat me.
I like the idea of a level playing field. You're absolutely right, and you know as well as I do that you have advantages in money that I don't. You know, nobody's disputing that. So why try to make a point about the idea that I tried for a level playing field? Many of the people who are looking at this race and saying that you have the advantage are saying it's solely on money. Money and name ID. So
last word, Mr. Kennedy, because we're going to move on to another question if you want to wrap this up quick.
No, I mean, I clearly disagree with Sean. I think that allowing one person to spend $100 million to influence
That's not happening, though, Joe. That's a hypothetical. What is happening
Sean,
is
okay,
John, we're going to move on to another question here, because we have a limited amount of time, and there's some other things we want to get to. This is a question for both of you. Would a casino be good for Massachusetts and the economy, and would you support one in your district, and if so, which community? Mr. Kennedy, we'll start with you.
Gene, there's a couple of plans and initiatives in the South Coast region of this district for casino gambling. Taunton is probably the one that's furthest down the path with that. It was supported overwhelmingly by the voters of Taunton with 60-40. And I think the key to casino gambling is that if a casino is going to go in, it should have the support of the local community. So it's something that I certainly would support alongside members of Taunton and the surrounding communities. Devil is obviously in the details to make sure that this is a good deal for the surrounding communities. I think you hit the nail on the head, though, Gene. It's really about jobs and trying to find ways to build up these communities and to attract big business and investment. And that's more than just a casino, but it's also large infrastructure projects like South Coast Rail. It's support for local community and economic development programs like the expansion of the Miles Standish Industrial Park in Taunton and the biopark that's being planned in conjunction with UMass Dartmouth and Fall River. It's the revitalization of downtown in Fall River and the business investment district in Taunton as well. So
let's give Mr. Bielat an opportunity on this one now, please.
You got it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I support economic development, and if local voters and residents support a casino, then I do too. I know that that's up in the air in some areas. I think the broader point, though, is what do we do to enable a pro-growth environment in this country? We haven't seen that. We've seen a lot of government intrusions into the market that have not created value, spending that hasn't created value or jobs. What we need are, pro-growth policies such as tax relief for businesses and individuals, making the regulatory environment more certain so that people know what's coming. I've had the conversation 100 times around the district during this campaign, and even the last, where a small business owner will say, I could hire a couple of people right now, but I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because I don't know what's coming. I don't know what my taxes are going to be. I don't know how health care is going to afford me. So they're staying out of it. They're not growing. We're not creating the jobs that we need. And that's preventable. Those are problems that are caused by people in Washington making bad decisions based on a lack of experience in the markets, in business. And that's why we need to send more people to Washington who have a business background, who don't want to make a career of it, but just want to go down, do some good, and then come back.
Let's get to a question of taxes. And again, we're short on time here, gentlemen, so if you could keep your answers as short as possible. Mr. Bielat, you said you would not sign Grover Norquist's request for no new taxes, correct?
That's correct.
Why is that, and what taxes would you be willing to increase?
Well, so I think it's unnecessarily binding. I'm not signing any pledges. If people hear what I say and they think that they can't trust me, they shouldn't vote for me. Signing a pledge shouldn't make a difference. I think the Norquist pledge in particular is a little overly binding. He says anytime you eliminate a loophole or deduction and somebody pays a little bit more, then that's a tax increase. I think most people would use common sense and say
any
that's
taxes
not.
you would be okay with seeing go up?
I would like to see as few tax increases as possible. So no, I'm not going to commit and say, yes, I'd like to see this one go up or that one go up. I would like to see tax decreases, particularly in the time of a down economy. That being said, I would be willing to make deals in order to get a greater good, like a balanced budget.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, the president said he wants to see high-earning Americans pay their fair share. You've run TV ads that pretty much agree with that sentiment. Could you explain what qualifies someone as a high-earning person and what level of income we're talking about?
Gene, I do support the Buffett rule, so initiative that says that millionaires should be paying their same tax rate as their secretaries, and I support rolling back the Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, so families earning over $250,000 a year. This has to be part of a balanced mix of spending cuts and revenue increases in order to get our debt and deficit under control. You're going to have to do both, and you're not going to be able to end up getting that spending under control if you're just trying to cut or get a deficit under control, if you're just going to cut spending alone. I think that there's a real difference here about creating a society or asking for a society that says everybody has to do their part versus one endorsed by the Romney-Ryan budget that says cuts $3 trillion in programs for working families and gives the average millionaire a tax break of nearly $400,000 a year. Sean has endorsed that framework. So there's a
Joe,
big...
You know that's not true.
Sean, quickly, I'll give you a rebuttal on that.
It's a great talking point, but you know that's not true.
Sean, you said it in the last debate.
No.
You embraced that framework of the Ryan budget.
Why don't you put that up on your site, because you know that's not true, Joe.
Happy to.
I have not said that.
Happy to.
What you have said, though, is you embrace a plan that cuts $700 billion from Medicare. You have personally, and this one was off talking points, so I'm not sure why you threw it out there, but you have personally suggested that we raise taxes on people making up to $160,000, an impact of up to $6,400 a year on those families. I don't know where that came from. That's something that you put out there as your personal policy point. It seems like not such a great idea from where I sit.
Last word, Mr. Kennedy, then we'll get to your closing statements.
I think, Sean, I think you try to twist words around a bit there, not surprising, but the really, again,
from you that you'd say that.
All right, gentlemen, we're on to the end here. Certainly, I wish we had more time to get a little bit more in depth in some of these topics, but we're going to give each of you 30 seconds now to make your final pitch to the voters directly here on Fox 25. So, Mr. Bielat, why don't you begin?
In a moment, you're going to hear Joe say something about the Ryan budget plan and Sean this, Sean that. Look at what Joe's offering. It's not a whole lot. It's not qualifications. It's not ideas. It's a bunch of talking points. It's a lot of money. What we need right now is experience in Washington. We need people with experience in business. We need experience in military. Is that enough? Of course it's not. You need ideas with that. You need a work ethic with that. You need character with that. And I would ask, all I can ask is that on November 6th, voters go into the voting booth. They look at both names. They say, I know what this guy stands for. I know what this guy stands for. I know their qualifications. I know their character. I know their ideas. And I'll make a choice accordingly. And I think if people do that, it's going to turn out very well for us.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, your turn now, please.
I believe that this country is founded on a very basic idea, that every person deserves to be treated fairly by their government and by each other. And that means that every person deserves to make the most out of their talent and hard work, that our country is actually strongest when everybody gets that shot, and that government has a role to play in creating that framework to allow everybody to succeed. That basic idea and that framework that allows for that economic opportunity and that mobility, that is what is at stake in this election. And we're seeing that in the policy platforms put out by the parties. I believe in a society where each of us has that access to that opportunity and where each of us has to do our part to make America prosperous for generations to come. All
right, Mr. Kennedy, we have to hold you right there. We do appreciate both of you gentlemen joining us this morning. Joe Kennedy III, Sean Bielat, thank you for a lively discussion, gentlemen, and joining us here this morning to talk about the issues and why you think voters should vote for you to be the next congressman to represent the 4th Congressional District here in Massachusetts. Again, Sean Bielat, Joe Kennedy, thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.